Ah, summer of '84. I remember it well. This movie is a time machine. Through production design and its soundtrack of synthwave, vaporwave, chill synth, takes you back to the 80s. It takes place in Ipswich, Oregon, on Cape May. Starts off with a paper boy, Davey, talking about the suburbs being weird. Some Erie, Indiana vibes here. Although I can't imagine Marshall Teller ever saying the craziest shit goes on in the suburbs. Even serial killers live next door to someone. On the newspaper Davey is delivering is a story about the Freeport boy still missing. It's the Cape May Chronicle. He stops at Mr. Mackey's house. He invites Davey inside to help him move some furniture. He's a local cop with framed pictures of family members on his wall in his living room. He needs Davey to help him down in the creepy basement. Right from the start we're involved in this. We're like, what's going on? There's a padlocked door down there. Davey is very suspicious, as any 15-year-old boy should be. At night, Davey and his friends play Manhunt, a hide-and-seek type game at nighttime, using torches or flashlights to hide around the neighborhood. Now this just brings you back. I used to play knock and run with my friends, or ding dong and run. You can imagine what that entailed. While he's hiding, he looks into Mr. Mackey's house and sees Mackey with a boy in his living room. It's strange because when Davey looked at Mackey's family members on the wall, Mr. Mackey said none of them live close. And here he is with a young boy inside his living room. He then gets jump scared by his friends who found him during the manhunt game. But when Davey looks back, both Mackey and the boy are gone. The plot thickens, as an amateur reviewer may say. Davey's three friends are Faraday, Eats, and Woody. They meet up in Eats's treehouse in his backyard, full of 15-year-old boy stuff, as you can imagine. But the conversation turns away to Davey suspecting that there is a serial killer on the loose. There's been missing boys now across Cape May for a year and a bit. But then Eats and the others mention Davey's other conspiracy theories about aliens and poltergeists, so they dismiss his little theory about an active serial killer. But we, the audience, are putting the pieces together with Davey. The synthesizer music is great here as we pan across Davey's bedroom of like National Enquirer like news clippings pinned on his wall. Looks like it's called the Worldwide Journal. Nazi moon bases. It's like cosmically great ambient music. And I think the soundtrack is the height of this film. You put it on for the music, and then the great storyline and the great production design, clothes, things from the 80s all fall into place. But the music, like, that stirs the nostalgia. Yeah. We're introduced here to the G.I. Joe walkie-talkies that Davey and his friends use to communicate with each other. Davey also has binoculars that he uses to keep an eye across the way on his old babysitter, Nikki, one of the best characters in this. Davey's dad is a cameraman for the local Channel 6 news. Davey wants to be a videographer like his dad, but the camera's off limits. Not sure if I like the father, not as a character but as an actor, but we'll get to his acting choices later. And that great 80s hit Cruel Summer plays as the boys ride their bike down to the bowling alley. And inside the bowling alley is great. Nothing but 80s nostalgia here. There's even a little arcade section that has the urban legend game Polybius. It's out of order. Thank goodness. And Nikki is the DJ here. And right behind her is a Pepsi advertisement. Have you drank Pepsi lately? Oh. Great camaraderie between the kids here. We believe they're friends. We believe they're our friends. That there's something in each character that reminds us of people we grew up with, or like characteristics from the Goonies, for example. So this elicits sympathy in us. We want these kids to succeed. On the news that night, the 𝙻𝙾𝚃 𝙸𝙽 is announced as an active serial killer in the area. Davey was right. And then some great bit of editing happens here when Davey's mum says, "I can't believe something like this could happen here." And then halfway through her sentence it cuts to Davey saying the same sentence but with enthusiasm. "I can't believe something like this could happen here." They use binoculars to spy on Nikki. She spots them, they all jump down, but she kind of figures that Davey is watching her. At the library, Davey and Faraday read microfiche newspaper articles back before the internet to see about other missing kids and even murdered families from the past, trying to piece clues together. These kids are on summer vacation, obviously. Idle hands at the devil's playground? Nah, this is just kids' imagination running away with them. And we're all on board for the journey. Another night of playing manhunt, hide and seek, night game. They notice that 𝙻𝙾𝚃 𝙸𝙽, their friend and manhunt player, is missing. So they go to his house. The Hoffman station wagon is still there, but nobody's home. Dun dun dun. Davey then, this is great atmosphere. Davey hears an owl in the distance, and then he looks from the Hoffman's house right over to Mr. Mackey's house, where he saw the boy not that long ago. Peanut butter jelly time. But then there's a missing kid on the milk, as they used to do back in the day. Another Erie, Indiana reference, perhaps? Or something else. Something else. The missing kid on the milk is Dusty, a redhead kid that Davey then immediately tells his friends was the boy that he saw in Mackey's living room during Manhunt. One of the kids make the observation that all redheads look alike, but Davey's not buying it. He saw that kid in Mackey's house. The one is now missing. Coupled with the creepy basement with the padlocked door, it's all starting to make sense to Davey and us, the audience. And his friends are all on board too, especially when Eats says that his brother Kyle, who works down at the hardware store, said that Mr. Mackey is in all the time, and he bought 100 pounds of soil. Operation Mac Attack begins when the boys surveil Mackey's house and his movements all day so they can get his scheduling down. A Shattered Dreams type song plays. It's great.
He leaves his house every weekday at 8:24 with a gym bag. Contents unknown.
After the steakhouse, they're back up in the treehouse, which I like to think my little boat shed here is like a boys' treehouse. kind of made it like my childhood. So welcome. But in the treehouse, they talk about kid things from the 80s, like how did the Ewoks defeat the entire empire, like talking bears. They thought gremlins would have done a better job. This is great. Looking out their treehouse at Mackie, they see him drag 2 garbage cans to the curb, a la the Burbs, but the Burbs did it better. They go through the cans after Mackie goes for his evening jog, but find nothing, like the Burbs. But there's so much deep, rich character here, especially with Davey's friends and their parents. Woody's mum is depressed. Nikki's parents are getting a divorce. Nikki actually comes over. Well, first, Davey's reading a certain book. I have it on good authority that this is the exact same book that Davey held in his hands. I acquired it under remarkable circumstances. Maybe I'll tell you sometime. But Nikki comes over, quite a shock to Davey. His parents are out, and like jovial synth music plays as she ventures up to his bedroom. She mentions that he can see her room from up here. He says, I've never seen you naked. And she says, too bad, I have a great body. So you can tell there's some flirting going on. Obviously, genuine friendship. I remember being that age, and like the older girls would like talk like that to you, and it made you feel like $1,000,000. So all is on point.
Sweet dreams.
Sweet dreams, she says as she climbs out the window. A new boy leaves home at like midnight, it looks like. Why? And then he's followed by heavy footsteps down the foggy suburban streets. Now this is straight out of Carpenter's Halloween. Great shots. And then he's kidnapped. Terrifying. Woody drives them to the hardware store. Hilarious scene. Woody is a bigger kid, and Eat says, you look like you're 30, don't worry, we won't get pulled over. They see Mackie buying a pickaxe. This is what kids do, let their imagination run away with them. They follow Mackie, but they lose him, but then they're pulled over by a police car. Is it Mackie? The suspense builds through the roof as the cop walks towards Woody driving a car when they're only 15 years old. It's a different cop, and he lets them off the hook, but he does look in the back seat at Eats. Officer, we meet again.
Officer Cole, we meet again.
Kids play street baseball while Mackie watches from his front lawn chair. Now this is creepy. He gives them icy poles or freezer pops, and we zoom in on him in a very creepy shot, and then this high-pitched static noise happens. So we, the audience, know something's going on, and we're going to be very disappointed if the filmmakers are tricking us here. So we're going along thinking, yeah, Mackie is the killer, kidnapper, person of interest. During the next game of Manhunt, they don't play Manhunt. They use the opportunity to scope out Mackie's house because they have the excuse of playing Manhunt. I wouldn't be too surprised if he finds them there. With their G.I. Joe walkie-talkies. Again, the suburbs at night, especially as a kid, something like comforting about going and exploring every nook and cranny of a very familiar street that you know so well in the daytime, but being unseen at night. Inside, they see Mackie with rubber gloves and cleaning supplies heading down to the basement. Very suspicious. And maybe blood on his shirt. And all the basement windows are painted over black. What's he hiding down there? What do you got in the cellar here, 𝙻𝙃 𝙸𝙽? Mr. Mackey sees Davey at the window and they're both shocked. Davey runs away and Mackey, we see his reaction like, I've been found. I have a problem. Davey drops his walkie. He goes to retrieve it, looking back with binoculars. This is Hitchcock level terrifying now. They dig up his garden, trying to find a dead body.
What about the garden? He's gonna notice his plants are all dug up. Raccoons.
Every line in the Goonies is like funny and or poignant, memorable. Not so much here. But I think that makes this more realistic. Not every line has to be a zinger. And these are just normal kids that we're on the journey with. I like that about it. Goonies is a cartoon compared to this. Although I do love Goonies, full disclosure. But back in Mackie's shed, we do get a funny line from Eats. Well, there's nothing here, unless he's killing people with his lawnmower. We've got jack shit. But then they find Rusty's MTV t-shirt covered in blood. Now back to the dad. They go to Davey's parents to tell him what's going on, and I don't think the father is a good actor. Maybe just not here, maybe he had bad direction, but when they're telling him about Mackie being a serial killer, the dad like opens his eyes wide.
Mackie.
Looking down.
Mackie.
Mackie? But he's a cop, for Christ's sake. Yeah, okay. We get it. You're like repelled by this?
He's a cop, for Christ's sake.
So they confront Mackie with the parents, and the dad gets him to apologize, but then Davey asks, like, who was the boy I saw? Mackie claims it was his nephew Jamie. He offers to call Jamie, like, no, that's fine, we believe you. The friends bail on Davey. They're like, we're going to get in enough trouble this summer. We can't get grounded like you've been. Davey goes to Nikki's bedroom. The thing that he looked at through the binoculars, he's actually in now. We're through the looking glass. Must feel so strange for him. Mackie then comes to Davey's house. Offers to call the nephew. This is so suspenseful. Davey grabs a knife as Mackie comes into the house to call the nephew on the phone to corroborate the evidence. Intense droning synth, very bassy. We're all on board. There's no answer on the phone. Mackie leaves. Davey then does a reverse dial call to see what the last number called, and it turns out Mackie called his own house. There is no nephew. Terrifying. But then on the news, it's reported that they've caught the serial killer, an Arthur Ray Peterson. Okay, we get it. You love the Burbs. So do we. They've arrested Arthur Ray Peterson. Actually, Mackie has. They've caught him. Davey doubts it though. That he thinks that Mackie could have planted any clues. In fact, the letters to the police from the serial killer was probably just Mackie setting the groundwork to frame this Ray Peterson guy. Ray Peterson, don't let them do to you what they did to me. So Davey now plans to investigate the basement. At the fair, Faraday helps keep an eye on Mackie. Davey takes his dad's camera for evidence so we can film what they find down there. Woody and Nikki tag along. At the fair, the police unveil a new garden that they've been building. That's why Mackie kept buying a bunch of soil from the hardware store. So Faraday abandons this whole thing and goes and meets up with Eats. But Davey, Nikki, and Woody are down in the basement. And they find a strange room set up to look like Mackie's 1950s childhood bedroom with kid stuff. No, this is more like a tree house. Mentioned that earlier. There's photos of boys down there. And there's a skeleton in the tub. Ah! They find the missing boy who was kidnapped on John Carpenter's Halloween Street. Push-pull. The victim's family on the walls upstairs. And there's a new framed photo of himself. Davey was going to be the next victim. Crazy. Now that's creepypasta level. So Monster Summer, which we watched last week, really tried to emulate the Goonies. But Summer of '84 is its own film. Very original, even though it takes place in the early 80s, ironically. They take the footage to the police. Woody has a great line. There's pictures of dead people all over his frickin' walls.
There's pictures of dead people all over the freaking walls.
Davey is now a hero. Nikki kisses him on the steps outside the police station. The father's acting emotional is out in front of our faces. His acting is here, in front of the father's face. I should have believed you, Davey. Well, as someone like Nicholson, yeah, it's back here. Danny, come back here, Danny. This actor is out here. I think if you want to be a good father actor, it needs to be here, raw. Fathers think here, not out here with the eyes. That's fake acting. I'm not an acting coach, mind you. I do play one on TV, though. Davey goes back home. Woody spends the night. The flashes of police cars are seen out the window. Mackie's house is now under surveillance. The end, right? Wrong. There's a heartbeat sound. Davey's darkened room. We're panning around it. The hallway. The ladder from the attic comes down, as well as synth chords. Mackie is now in the bedroom. Davey gets chloroformed. Maybe it should have ended here, leaving it up to our imagination like what happens now, but it doesn't. Davey wakes up in the woods with Woody. Actually, they're in the back seat of Mackie's police car. Then they get out, they run through the woods. He's hunting them, just like the Manhunt game, but for reals, like Prey. Mackie slits Woody's throat. Terrible. The stakes are raised now. I mean, Chunk was never killed in the Goonies. Wax Davey to be scared. Mackie wants Davey to be scared when he catches up with him, so he tells him he's going to let him go, so he can now be afraid for the rest of his life that Mackie will one day come after him. Davey's traumatized. He's back on his paper route, saying the same narration we heard at the very beginning. Back to the start. Nikki leaves. Eats his family. There's been like a domestic. Woody is dead. There's crime scene tape around Mackie's. Now it's the end. So depressing ending. It's like boys becoming adults, knowing the terror of the real world. The magic of childhood is dead. I understand that kind of ending. And you have to end something like that. Definitely. So I think it's fine. Did you like the ending? But as I said, the main plot, the main character in this is the music. So I got my hands on the very rare soundtrack of summer of '84. There's Davey with his binoculars. And there's his friends on the back. Eats, Faraday, Woody, reading the adult magazine. Davey, our hero. Should we test it? Unboxing vinyl, an expensive pastime. It's decreased in value significantly, but we're about to be increased in value with great tunes. There's Mackie in his cop car. Awesome. This is great. Look at that. That's awesome. Okay, let's go. Thanks for watching Summer of '84 film review.